welcome to the Future of Teamwork podcast. My name's Dane, Groeneveld, CEO of Huddle 3 Group, and I'm pleased to be speaking with Dr. Wanita Dixon this morning. Dr. Wanita is an innovation consultant, an innovation doula, a mechanical engineer, a business developer for artists. She's got a lot of energy, a lot of technical expertise, and it's exciting to see what her views are on the future of teamwork. So welcome to the show, Wanita.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's going to be a blast. I really enjoyed our first conversation when we got to meet, and you were telling me about your journey, starting out as an engineer, working for some big companies and being a part of so many cool teams on a global basis. Maybe you could tell our listeners a little bit of that story about how that's shaped and influenced where you are today and where you're focusing on in the future.
Awesome. I'd love to. So I'm originally from Oxford, North Carolina, and I wanted to be an artist, like a visual artist as a child. And like a lot of folks, my parents said, you won't make any money at that. But I also was so into the math and the science and taking things apart and figuring out how things work that I went into mechanical engineering. So navigated my career, kind of floating from job to job. I'd get bored and then I'd try something different and recreating myself every 2 to 3 years. So some of the large companies that I worked with in aerospace, so Pratt & Whitney,
Yep.
Pratt & Whitney Rocketdyne. So I've actually designed rocket engine hardware.
Fun.
Right? I mean, super cool stuff. But that artistry and that love of visual just never died. And so now I've transitioned into being a business developer for artists. So I'm bringing my background from these large multinational corporations, experience as a former executive in product innovation and development, and saying, this artist behind me is Lupe Lawrence.
Yeah.
And I told Lupe, I said, have you thought about other ways to monetize your work? And of course, her response was, no, I just want to create.
Yeah.
So let me help you. Let me make that bridge, for you, because I genuinely love beautiful, functional things.
That's very cool. And it's such a interesting combination, the engineering, the big corporate product development, and then this more organic, artists supporting their career, the growth of their audience, the growth of their work, their body of work. It's a really unique combination. Tell me a little bit more about what you bring when you team up with these artists, what you bring from your experiences in the larger corporate world, the aerospace and defense market.
I would say what I bring is that expertise. So the innovator's method and design thinking, and also lean startup. So that's something else that I'm reading. So I've started my own consultancy, Technical Creative Consulting LLC. That's the name, because I am the technical creative. I'm the bridge between the two.
I love that.
And because I understand commercialization, I understand finding a market gap and identifying customer needs for the art. So let's take an example, right? So Lupe's work is photorealistic.
Yeah.
She does paintings that make you imagine that you're actually in the city or in the scene that she's in. It makes you feel something. Putting on my corporate lens, I instantly say, now, where would she find people or businesses that might be interested in that work? So I told her, I said, tourism board for the different cities, places she's traveled where people know her, art galleries, travel agents, endless. And the more that I talked to her about this, the more excited she became. She starts pointing to paintings on the wall. She's like, and where do you think this is? And I said, it kind of looks like Charleston, South Carolina. And she goes, yes, it was one of the trips I took with my husband. And so it's just this whole thinking differently, thinking creatively about, in a non-salesy way, but in a way that helps you connect with the person that's going to have a reaction. I bought this painting because it's a picture of a woman and she's on this winding path leading into this unknown, land sort of a thing. And I said, well, that's me. I just left corporate. That's me. I have a visceral connection to it.
I love that. And it's interesting with where we are today as people, some people will talk about the grim nature of climate change and geopolitics and everything else. But as people, we've got access to so many resources. We've got so much more time. There's so much more busyness. There's a lot more anxiety. And I think connecting with other people and connecting with emotions is a big theme right now in teams and individually. So it's interesting that that's been your experience with that piece of art, that's the experience that you bring from industry as you start to think about, well, I can help artists connect with people in a way that solves a market problem. It's not just, like you say, it's not just economic. It's actually about bringing human value to the work that anyone's doing, whether an engineer, an artist, or otherwise.
Definitely. And you just reminded me of an exercise I did with my last team when I was at Carrier Corporation. So I did art therapy without them knowing it was art therapy.
Oh, wow. Tell me more about that.
And it helps that you have a team that's open to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so another local artist, she is what is called a fiber artist.
Okay.
And her name is Kianga Janaki, and she does quilts.
Yeah.
So handmade, quilt squares of like different scenes, different colors, fabric and textiles, right?
Yeah.
And her house here in the area is one of my happy places. So I'll go there and sit with her and see what she's working on and buy bulk fabric from her because I like to make handbags for fun.
Yeah.
I had this idea and I told her, I said, you've been teaching these classes on how to make pillows, like lumbar pillows, right? And covering it in this African fabric. She imports fabric. So we went online and we planned out the project. So we went online and I made a box for each person on my team. And inside the box was a pillow, just a blank pillow from Amazon, a pair of scissors, thread, needle, pattern, for the pillow.
Yeah.
And then a piece of African fabric that they were going to use to cover these pillows that I handpicked based on their personality. I picked the color and the structural texture, that I wanted. I packaged it up and I enclosed a little note and I shipped it to each person's house because my team was virtual. There were only 2 of them based in Florida, physically with me in the office. And then Kianga called in on the Zoom from her house and she had her kit and each person on the team had their kit. And I blocked off a Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
And we put on some music. And our job was to sit and make these pillows. So now let me paint a picture. So I had a Dominican man on my team. An Asian man on my team. Couple of white guys, right? Myself. Yep. But the thing that we had in common is we were all mechanical engineers.
Yes.
And so it's that whole getting uncomfortable. Because can you see it, right? This engineer who's never done anything. I'm not creative. And he's sitting here and fumbling with the needle, right? And he's laughing and he's like, I'm so terrible at this. And by the end of the call, just that satisfaction as they all showed off their work.
That's very cool.
To a local artist.
Yeah, it's touching so many important themes, supporting local art, vulnerability, like you said, embracing discomfort, sharing something personal with team members. In work, we can all be too much about the widget that we're working on and not about who we are and our experience of things. That's such a cool exercise.
Thank you. And she teaches those classes all the time. And so it's like encouraging people in corporate to think differently. And it wasn't expensive at all. It was the cost of the materials and paying her for an hour of her time to actually do the live instruction.
That's really cool.
Endless.
We've actually, one of our teams just identified an opportunity for the holidays, supporting children in foster care. So we're working with this group, and I can't remember the name of it. It may come to me later, but they send us these duffel bags and these kits to decorate the duffel bags for the kids, which they'll get their Christmas gifts in. And so we're going to do the same thing, do a virtual kind of giving themed creative event in the holiday season. But I think it's really important because just doing a happy hour or a pub quiz, you're not really connecting people, and people will go and sit there and have a beer, or maybe they're not paying attention if it's virtual. But this is a way to really let it all relax and just kind of be in the moment.
Dane, I can't possibly love this enough, and I'm on record as I'm stealing that idea for the holiday. And
I'll send you it. I'll send you the link.
Cool. Yeah, that's super cool. We could do it for like any charity locally.
Yep.
And get the artists engaged and maybe auction off the finished bags.
Yeah, that would be super fun. That would be really cool.
Much fun. Hey, thank you for that. See,
no,
it's
you
that
bet.
Inspiration thing.
That's why I like the opportunity to be talking to guests on this show and understanding, what we're all doing that helps kind of drive that human connection in the future of teams, and teams not just in the work setting, in the community setting as well. Maybe we're supporting artists, maybe we're supporting a not-for-profit organization, a sports club. I think we can play roles on lots of different teams as the individuals that we are lucky to be part of businesses with experience and resources to bring to bear.
Exactly. You make things better, more beautiful, more intentional.
Yeah. So let's stay with this theme of like engineering and art. I know you were telling me earlier about a podcast you're planning to bring out on the letting off steam. I'd love to hear a little bit more about the origins of that, and how you've come to see the role of art helping other people in these kind of engineering, mathematics, scientific roles.
Absolutely. So the podcast is called Dr. Dubs. That's my nickname for Wanita.
Yeah.
That I picked up back at Carrier in an innovation workshop. One of the students that I was teaching, and these are co-workers, not, children.
Yeah.
But he goes, "What's up, Dr. Dubs?" And I go, that's kind of cute. It's kind of funny.
I'll take it.
I'll take it. So that's the Dr. Dubs part. And then the STEAM is science, technology, engineering, art, and math.
Yeah.
So the letting off steam is the concept that, as I would say, professionals in the hard sciences and the hard engineering, very, very structured, very methodical, very processed. How do you bring innovation into that? And you bring innovation into that through creativity, and art is just simply the vehicle.
Yeah.
So that was my theory behind that. And at the end of each podcast, I'll ask the person, so how do you let off steam? Like, what's your creative expression?
Yeah.
And you may say, oh, I collect sculpture, or I like to surf. Dane told me he likes to surf, right? And it's all connected. Think about how you became a good surfer, the physics of it.
Yep.
There's an artistry to it, but there's physics in that too.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just all joined. I incorporate it.
I like that lens of letting off steam. How do you have your creative expression? Because that's very personal. That's very human. But I also like what you just touched on, which is we can access innovation through the creativity. So it's not just about personal expression. It's about, I guess, getting away from the structured laws and rules and measures and day-to-day problems that we're solving to think about what we could solve in a future state if something was different. So I guess that's what art unlocks in many respects.
It definitely does. It's lighting up the other side of your brain.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. It's funny because you look at the world we live in. I always like to talk about the Jetsons because I watched the Jetsons growing up. and people in these floating cars, and we've got these drones that are soon to be passenger ready, which are going to look a lot like those. People
Right.
talking on video phones, and we've got that on our cell phones now. Robots. I mean, when you get creative and you think about what the world could look like if you weren't bound by today's constraints, it's pretty easy to excite people towards something new that may actually be better for everyone too.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a cool exercise that we learned in innovation. So I'm actually certified in innovation.
Yeah.
And innovation in terms of product innovation. And I've taken classes through IDEO as well.
Okay.
And I tell folks, you don't have to be trained in things that just kind of come naturally. And so here's the exercise for your listeners. It's called Remember the Future.
Yes.
You're familiar with that one?
Not specifically remember the future, but so many people I talk to about futurists and innovation and even personal wellness, they always say you've got to set something out in the future and then reverse engineer into that. So I'd love to hear what your version of Remember the Future is.
That's exactly what it is.
Right.
So you can do this, and we did this with a couple of products at Carrier. So you start with the prompt. Remember when I had to take out my phone and press the button, right? In order to, let's do refrigeration, because I did a project in that.
Okay.
Remember when we had to take out our credit cards to pay for food at the store?
Got it.
It turned into cashless point of sale on the refrigerated cabinet in China, because China is mostly, or Shanghai, in the larger cities in China are mostly a cashless market. So they like to use WeChat.
Yes.
So getting that integration with the hardware and the software is something that it was really difficult for engineers that only worked on hardware, because I'm mechanical.
Yeah.
To really think about those integrations and think about different ways to kind of combine their knowledge set. It was a lot of fun. Oh,
I bet. And you start to think heavily about user experience then when you start to bring in not only the software, but where are they going to interact with this? How frequently are they going to interact with it? There's a lot of pieces that come into play.
Exactly. And for those that are studying what I like to call the pure science, it's kind of adjusting your mind a little bit to learn the other language. So I used to call myself a functional polyglot.
Whoa. Tell me more about that.
Well, because polyglots speak different languages.
Right.
And as polyglots speak different languages, a functional polyglot is a fancy way of saying, I can present to you this morning it's morning here now.
Yeah.
I present to you this morning as a mechanical engineer. And we can talk about structural integrity and material science and, things like that.
Yeah.
Then I can come back and, change what I'm wearing.
Yeah.
And go into an art gallery and speak to the curator and say, I understand you have a show coming up. And I've been studying your career as a curator, and you seem to like still life paintings, and you also like these colors and things from this period.
Yes.
Here's a portfolio of the different artists that I'm representing.
Yeah.
Which of them do you think would be best suited for that exhibition? And I'll be in touch to make sure that they're prepared, to present a body of work. Cool. Right? And then I can flip and go out into the community, into the nonprofit space. And that's the business development, and say, I understand there's a couple of grants and requests for proposal with the city in the following areas.
Yeah.
Here's my presentation on how we would address that. And here's the feature artists that I will be collaborating with to deliver it. So it's being able to walk in each of those spaces comfortably.
That's
and I
neat.
would argue it comes from being a Black female from the South, first generation college graduate.
Yeah.
Used to being an outsider. So I understand that. And I've worked all over the world
Yeah.
in languages I don't speak.
Which
So
is
it gives a different one, different
which
perspective.
is interesting when it comes to connecting, because when the language barrier presents itself, you need to connect around more physical
Emotion.
manifestations, emotion, the look and feel of something,
Mhm.
the structural specifications of something.
Engineering, science, math, no color, no boundary.
Yeah,
That's the connection.
that's cool. And I know that's one of the really, not necessarily unique to you, but unique to what you're bringing to some of your newer customers, partners, communities that you're participating in, is that global technical network and product experience that you have. And I know when we were talking, you were telling me a little bit more about the, I'm going to get this, I think I'm going to get it right, the League of Virtual Engineers, the way that you were working with other engineers around the world and driving connection there with these people. So I'd love to hear you share a little bit about that with me and with the listeners too.
Absolutely. So I'm a member of the Society of Women Engineers, and they do a conference every year. And so I got to present a couple of years back. And the topic of my presentation was leading with love. And it was the topic of the presentation that love stood for League of Virtual Engineers.
Uh-huh.
So I walked everyone in that presentation through a refresh of my doctoral dissertation work. So my doctoral dissertation work was virtual project team management of engineering teams.
Yeah.
It was published in 2012, 10 years before
COVID strikes. Yeah.
So I guess I should call myself a futurist too.
That's right. You were there.
It's crazy. But it's really around the thought process. And when I worked at Carrier, those engineers were all over the world. And it's how do you motivate? How do you keep people engaged in that common purpose? And I would argue you do it by loving them. You do it by making a real connection.
Yeah.
And once I would travel to these sites, and then I was in a lot of Carrier's marketing pieces, so people could see me on film.
Yeah.
They could read stories about me, not in a, hey, look at me, show-offy way, but more of a, I'm being authentic. I'm being vulnerable. I'm just like you. I just happen to look a little different, but I'm a mechanical engineer.
Yeah.
Right? What can we make together? How can we align and use our skill set in that, I would say, that common purpose?
Yeah.
Like, what's the thing we're focusing on? Okay, we want to build this. Okay, great. So Dane, what do you know how to do? And Dane says, well, I'm not super creative, but I'm really good at doing the business plan to determine how many of these things we can sell, what the market size is.
Yeah.
And Wanita says, oh yeah, that's incredible. And I can talk about the texture and the design. And then Jim comes in and Jim says, well, what about the patterns?
Yeah.
And another person comes in and talks about the materials and the manufacturing and on and on and on. And pretty soon we've got this incredible thing that we know is going to sell because we talked to the customers first and we did iterations. And we changed this because, they didn't like it, or we investigated the price point. Yeah. That's the innovator's method. It's bringing it all together.
I love that. And it's it ties in a lot with some of the other guests we've had on the show about when you find something, you can't just innovate in a vacuum. You need to make sure that you've got the best of the best team members, whether it's finance, whether it's marketing, whether it's materials, and that you're really listening to the customer, because you guys could design the most beautiful thing, but if the customer doesn't need it, what purpose does it serve?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So with this League of Virtual Engineers, often, you're not one of them, but often you run into engineers and they're very conscientiously attached to details and processes, and they don't love to be out talking to customers and exploring. They don't like to take criticism about their work. How did you, with the League of Virtual Engineers, kind of bridge that, finding the people who are best at talking to the customer and really, really, truly listening?
That's the functional polyglot again.
Yeah.
Because, and this is the value of large corporations. In startups, an engineer would have to talk to the customer, or someone on the team would have to.
Yeah.
In large corporations, there's just so many of us. Not to get too esoteric, right? But you talk about the universal laws and the law of attraction.
Yeah.
People who get me. And so my energy would pull the type of engineers that could be, I don't want to say trained, I want to say could be practiced or rehearsed to talk to customers.
Yeah.
They simply thrive on, oh, well, I saw Wanita do that, and I could do that too. Well, yes, Dane, absolutely, you could do this too. I don't, that's another term I guess I had thought about recently. It's like democratizing access to innovation.
Interesting. Tell me more about that.
Well, just like art collecting, it should not be the sole domain of the elite or the wealthy.
Yeah.
Because look at how much you're excluding by doing that. Some of the best ideas come from that introverted engineer in the corner. Like you said, he or she doesn't want to be criticized about their work. That's like an artist.
Yeah.
Wants to focus on the detail and create their little thing. And I'm not really thinking about the customer. I'm thinking about what I want to give birth to, me. And it's like, well, that's fine. Because then maybe your role is to produce the thing. And it's our job to figure out where it's useful. So it's holding the hammer, right? Making the hammer instead of looking at a problem and saying, what's the best tool, to solve it. It's just a little shift. There's no right or wrong, really.
Yeah. And I like the way you explain democratizing access to innovation, because you look at where some of the best innovations come from, and they don't come from the center. They come from the boundaries. They come from the fringes, from people that are seeing something that the big corporation or the team with the best product in their hand isn't seeing. Because you can get that path dependence, right? If I've got the best widget and I'm like, why would anyone ever use a widget different to this? Let's call it the vinyl record. No one's ever going to do music that sounds better than this. And all of a sudden it goes digital. Netflix and Blockbuster. There's all of these stories through history. You're not looking to innovate and evolve. You're just looking to keep doing what you do well, and you get stuck. So there's that element. It brings more innovation for people. And then there's the other element, which is if the innovation's truly coming from the ecosystem, maybe they're going to bring products forward that may not be technically the best, but they're products that other people associate with, they value, they care for. And, technical specifications don't always win. Sometimes it's what's easiest to use, what do customers fall in love with. So it's another reason we've got to be looking at the boundaries.
Well, iPhone cameras versus Android cameras.
Yeah.
But iPhones and Apple, right?
Yeah.
It's like people ask me what are my favorite brands and experiences. And it's the switching cost, right? Associated with leaving the Apple ecosystem.
Yeah.
One is maybe technically better, but the experience is not better. And the ease of use. And you're right. It's a whole thing. I would say, though, there's a place for everyone in this world. And even in those large corporations, I would call myself an entrepreneur versus now I'm an entrepreneur because I'm on my own.
Yeah.
But inside of those companies, figuring out how to navigate that. The thing about a large corporation, you have enough in your product portfolio that is, quote, stable. Why would anyone do it any other way? And the answer is because you have to have someone, quote, making the money and the stability in order to have the safety, have the credibility, the market positioning, the freedom to innovate.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's that I know Harvard did that box 1, box 2, box 3 article years ago. So that stability of box one,
Mm-hmm.
box two, you're looking for like extensions of what your core is. And box three is like what's way out there, what's like the 0 to 1 innovation.
Exactly.
And that is a benefit. I actually like connecting both of those themes that we just touched on, democratizing innovation and the importance of large corporations, because it shouldn't be one or the other. Like in my vision for the future of teamwork, big companies bring to bear their balance sheet, their best people, some of their technologies, and they say to the people in the fringes, whether they're vendors, employees, just community members, how could you use what we've got differently? How could you take us into box three? Because then they're not spending all of the money having to do all of the thinking. They're democratizing, they're decentralizing this kind of search for what might be next, what might be valued in the community.
Do you know what I would love? And I don't know if it's being done or not, but what's coming up for me? Universities have, in my alma mater, so I graduated from North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University.
Yeah.
I like to shout out my school when I can. And what they have established, and it just opened this year, it is an innovation center. It's an engineering research and innovation center, the ERIC. And it's named after the current chancellor. He was the dean of the College of Engineering when I was there. His name is Harold Martin Sr.
Okay.
And why I'm bringing this up is inside of that building, and it's this amazing complex, there was a sign on the door on one of the offices, and it says entrepreneur in residence. So what the university is doing is bringing someone who's been successful in industry, an industry executive, and that person will have an office and be on site, for like a year assignment.
Yeah.
So here's my crazy thought process. Artist in residence.
Yeah.
For corporations.
Yeah.
And I'd like to volunteer for that rotation.
That's a cool idea. That's a really cool idea. So how does that play out in your mind? So the artist in residence, so they're sitting there and people are coming up with all sorts of problems, HR, engineering, marketing, communications, finance, and so coming in and saying, hey, Dr. Dubs, how can I be looking at this differently? Is that kind of how it plays out?
How can you look at this differently? What type of exercises can I take you through to help you become unstuck? So we could play at that. Yeah. So I'm Dr. Dubs. I'm here in the office. Yeah. I'm your artist in residence.
Yeah.
And I have technique, and this is true. I have technique. I like to create 2D images in pencil, in ink, and also with colored pencils, ink. I like charcoal, pastel. But I also create handbags. So I like to construct things that are structural. Yeah. Different patterns, different textures. Your name is Dane. You are the chief financial officer. And you've hired some new people on your team.
Yeah.
And they're Xenials.
Yeah.
They're not relating to you, Dane.
Yes.
You just came to me with a problem. They're not getting it. Okay, great. So I'm going to start asking you a couple of questions. I'm going to put on my PhD hat. I'm a qualitative researcher too. Mm-hmm. Put on my hat. So Dane, what's the biggest problem that you're facing with your new employees? Like, you told me they're not gelling well with the team. Why do you think that is?
They don't feel like they have enough experience to have a voice and talk about problems they're seeing in the day-to-day task flow.
So how do you currently get those ideas from them? Like, what have you tried?
I go into meetings and I say, what are we not seeing? What can we do differently?
Oh, so you're asking them outright.
Yeah.
And you're kind of putting them on the spot a little bit.
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So here's Dr. Dub's prescription.
Yeah, I love it.
So my prescription is have me come to your next meeting.
Uh-huh.
The first 5 minutes, we're going to do something that I call doodle aerobics.
Okay.
It's an exercise that I learned in innovation. It's going to open up their creativity and again, start to help build that psychological safety and connection with you. So doodle aerobics, you take 3 pieces of paper. You put on some music. You spend 1 minute taking that first piece of paper. You make as many circles as you can. Any size. Shape doesn't matter. Just draw it, right? They're going to have colored pencils, markers, whatever. Then you set the clock for another minute. As many squares as possible.
Got it.
Then another minute. As many rectangles as possible.
Yeah.
Here's the culminating event. Now you're going to all go to the whiteboard at the same time. Right. This is for a small team, by the way.
Yeah.
Each pick a spot on the whiteboard. Look at someone in the room, could be anyone, and draw them as a robot using only circles, triangles, and squares. Right?
Yeah.
So you're going to see some laughter. You're going to get some engagement. You're going to get a little bit of funniness, right?
Yeah.
At the end of those 5 minutes, you tell them, well, now that we've created this together and had a little bit of fun, I would like for you to share your ideas with the team in the same way.
Nice.
No bad ideas, no laughing at anybody's picture or anybody's, thought.
Yeah.
Have them write it on a piece of paper and just put it in a box and you read it out.
That's cool. So they don't have to say it. It's a box. Is it anonymous or do they say it was Dane did this?
It's on the relationship with your team.
Got it. Okay, that's cool.
Because if you've got an extrovert like me, I don't care if you don't like my idea.
You're hammering.
I'm hammering because I'll just come up with another one.
Yeah.
You like that? Okay.
Yeah.
That's not an indictment on me. That's just an idea that didn't work. I mean, But for the introvert, for the person that I would argue probably has the most brilliant, clear view, is sitting back observing everything, or has been around for a while, he or she has not made their career by flying close to the sun.
Correct.
It's a different level of fearlessness. I'm pretty fearless.
I like that. And actually, fear and psychological safety are 2 very different things. They have some relationships, but they are very different. And one of my friends, Sean McCambridge, had a guy called Mark Matthews on his podcast the other day, Big Wave Surfer, and he was talking about how you overcome fear to surf these like 60 and 80 foot waves, which are pretty real, right? You're going to drown, you're going to break your arm, you break your leg.
Exactly.
But he talks about taking small leaps on getting comfortable with fear. And this doodle aerobics sounds like it's a really good way to like break down the muscle memory, let these perhaps introverted or perhaps more reserved, more analytical team members get out of their day-to-day pattern and start embracing that little bit of fear in a safe way. And in time, that leads to the psychological safety. It's not an inverse relationship, but there's something there. It's really interesting.
Go back to your childhood. What did you want to be when you grew up? Like, what would you do if you had no fear of, anything? Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Yeah. What would you do if you weren't afraid of losing your house? What would you do if you weren't afraid of being fired? Yeah. What would you do if you weren't afraid of being laughed at or told that you were crazy or different? Yeah. And then how do we as leaders pull that out in a safe way? Yeah.
It's a burden.
Don't want to be,
you got to remove those burdens from people to be truly operating at their highest value and passion point. Exactly. Because, even someone's salary, someone gets to a senior role managing people and spreadsheets, but they're actually a creative and they're like, hey, I could only earn, there you go. I could only earn half what I earn if I really embrace my creative side, I'm stuck here and I'm doing this job because that keeps the boss happy, that keeps the customer happy. And that feeling of being stuck, that's not good for a company's culture. It's not good for a company's innovation. It's not good for the individual.
That's a mental health thing.
It is. Yeah, it's wellness. Wellness 101.
It's wellness 101. And that takes us back to the letting off steam thing.
Yeah.
So many artists that I'm meeting and I'm interacting with have, quote, day jobs. And I'm not, disclaimer, I'm not telling anyone to quit their job.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is look for opportunities in that day-to-day job to do it in an innovative or creative way that feeds your spirit.
Yeah.
And I'm also big on the 15-minute vacation.
Okay. I don't know that one.
Okay. So you're working your job again, Dane, the persona, Dane, the CFO of large corporation X, right? Based, it doesn't really matter, based anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
He is stressed out and he's constantly go, go, go. Your assistant is calling car service. Your assistant is your handler.
Yeah.
He or she is scheduling every second,
Yeah.
But when you're transitioning to your next meeting, car service, or you're on the way to the airport, what that 15-minute vacation is, okay? Headphones on.
Uh-huh.
Music of your choice.
Yep.
Close your eyes. As you're listening to the music, where do you imagine it was recorded? What city?
Yeah.
What was your favorite vacation? What were you doing on vacation? And you're just breathe. Think of it as a guided meditation.
Yeah, that is. Yeah.
It's focused on an object or a thing or an experience.
So that maybe gives you.
Maybe surfing.
Yeah. Go back to a wave. I like that. That's really powerful. That's really powerful. And it's interesting.
Put your mind there,
And it's interesting about meditation, about flow, about getting in the zone, about variety. There was a great book that I read called Ikigai that was talking about how people get in the flow with their health and with their activities. It was looking at the people of Okinawa and other people in blue zones. But also Adam Grant came out the other day on LinkedIn with a poster, which I love, which basically said we should embrace the side hustle and the gig economy, because if Wanita or Dane do a project on a Tuesday night, and let's say it's for a not-for-profit, or maybe it's a for-profit job on Fiverr or Upwork or whatever that is, and they're able to have some creative expression, they're able to innovate, do something that's not the burden of their daily job and daily life. The data shows that on Wednesday morning, when they turn up to their paid day job, their energy, their productivity, their communications, everything's improved. So, maybe there is a theme there, artist in residence. Yes, that's one way for the company to structure it, but how can we structure it in the individuals and what they do outside of the company to kind of lift their energy, their wellness, their positivity?
Like you said, it's the side hustle and it's volunteering.
Yeah.
Now, the simplest one, or I should say the one that I'm most familiar with, would be like Habitat for Humanity. They're always looking for volunteers.
Yeah.
And again, kind of, how do you find those volunteer opportunities based upon things that you're passionate about? Would be the answer.
Yep.
I have a dog. I love dogs.
Yeah.
And so you could find a nonprofit in your area and they're raising money. Again, the holidays are coming. They're raising money. You in your day job are, you're a clinical researcher for perfumes.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
It's tedious. You used to love it, but now you're a bit bored. But you have a cat and you love your cat. And you want to do something a little bit creative. And you're like, well, experience. How could I combine those things? I know. I'm going to volunteer at the animal shelter. Yeah. Because I'm on social media all the time. I'm going to go down there and tell them I don't want any money. I just want to raise awareness for the shelter around the holidays.
Uh-huh.
So then maybe you're down there and you're quote, interviewing the animals.
Yeah.
Different animal each day.
Yeah.
Right. And then you like to paint. So you're drawing pictures you take pictures of the cat or the dog, and you're doing art with the animals. Right. And you start this buzz. And you're like, ooh, I could sell postcards around the holidays.
Yeah.
With these paintings.
Yeah.
And all of the money goes to the animal shelter. And this is just riffing.
And that riffing's what's important is that you don't have to start with a plan. You go out there and you riff and you just see what emerges. Exactly. And how does that bring energy? How does that inform your insights and your approach and everything else you're doing? It's it's exciting.
It gives you some joy. So when you go back to work, you're like, yep, I'm doing the work, but it's giving me the money to pay for those art supplies.
Yeah.
Oh, it's giving me money to be able to.
There's a big gratitude piece.
Afternoon. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. To go there during business hours and talk to the people at the place.
No,
I'm having a wicked fun time if you hadn't already guessed.
Oh, this is fun. I can't believe we've almost knocked through an hour. We'll have to do another show. I'm going to have to come on your podcast and talk about Dr. Dubs and letting off steam. To summarize some of the things we've talked about, I love that we've covered everything from engineering and innovation to art to art therapy and doodle aerobics to artist in residence, and all around, helping people and wellness there too. So it's products, it's people, it's processes. There's so much cool stuff that you bring out. If anyone wants to reach out to you, Wanita, and learn more about how they can engage with you, maybe bring you on as an artist in residence or have something to do with the technical creative, what's the best way for them to find you?
Well, I'm on Instagram at The Technical Creative.
Yep.
And I'm on LinkedIn, WANITA DIXON.
Excellent. Well, I'm sure you'll get a few people reach out to you of all of these activities you're out there doing in the community. It's exciting to see you reaching out and broadening out, your touch points. And I look forward to reconnecting again soon. But thanks for coming on today.
Thank you for having me on the Future of Teamwork. This was a lot of fun.
It was a buzz. Thank you.